I let my friend meet my husband and regretted it instantly. The air in my living room didn't just get tense, it cracked. It took exactly 3 seconds for my world to splinter. It wasn't in what they said. It was in the look. The one my husband, the man I'd built a life with, gave my best friend. It wasn't a look of introduction. It was a look of recognition, like they were two halves of a story I was never meant to read. My blood ran cold, because in that single, silent moment, I knew I hadn't just made an introduction. I'd lit a fuse. Dear Narrative Hub customer, before you get lost in this epic adventure, I have one big favor to ask. Statistics have shown us that most of our customers have not yet subscribed to this channel. Subscribe now and help us hit 1,000 subscribers to unlock even more epic tailies. Thank you. The evening was supposed to be perfect. At 7:02 p.m., my life was perfect. My husband, James Anderson, was pouring 2 glasses of my favorite Merlot, the ruby liquid catching the soft light of our impeccable suburban home. He was my rock, the steady, predictable man who had calmed the chaos of my 20s. At the door was Jessica Thomas, my best friend for over a decade, the sister I'd chosen. Her laughter, bright and familiar, echoed down the hall as I let her in, a gift bag swinging from her wrist. I had planned this moment for weeks. Imagine the easy friendship that would bloom between the two most important people in my world. At 7:03 p.m., I was living in a different reality. James, this is Jessica, I said, my voice beaming. Jessica, my husband, James. The handshake was the epicenter of the earthquake. It wasn't the touch itself, but the duration. His hand didn't immediately leave hers. Her eyes didn't flick away with polite deference. Instead, they scanned his face like she was searching for something she'd lost long ago. And his face, the polite mask of a husband meeting a friend, slipped for a fraction of a second. A micro-expression flashed across his features, not surprise, not lust, but something far more chilling: recognition. A switch flipped in my soul. Not a quiet click, but a loud, brutal thunk. A silence fell over the room so heavy it felt like a third person, a ghost from a life I'd never known. In that instant, my own husband felt like a stranger, and my friend, she looked like she'd just come home. I wasn't a wife or a friend anymore. I was just a witness to something I should have never set in motion. You think you know what's coming next, don't you? An affair, a secret romance. But trust me, you're not ready for what this really was. The truth was so much worse. Dinner was a masterclass in unspoken communication. It was like watching 2 spies recognize a secret code right in front of me. Her laugh was a little too loud at his joke, which wasn't even that funny. His gaze lingered a second too long after she turned to ask me a question. They talked about cities, Chicago, Denver, with a shared knowledge that felt deeper than casual travel. Every word was a landmine, every shared glance a shot fired in a war I didn't know had been declared. I felt my smile become a rictus grin, my participation reduced to passing the salt and refilling wine glasses, the only person in the room who didn't know the secret. The days that followed were a quiet torture. The perfect life I cherished began to fray at the edges. It started with the small things. James, who always left his phone face up on the counter, now kept it in his pocket, screen down. A notification would buzz, and he'd casually walk into another room to check it. Once, I saw Jessica's name on the screen before he swiped it away. Just coordinating a surprise for your birthday, he'd say, his voice smooth as silk. But his eyes didn't meet mine. My gut screamed danger, so loud I almost physically flinched. I had invited the predator into the hen house, and I was the only one who could see the claws. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. You seemed to really hit it off with Jessica, I said, trying to sound casual as we cleared the dinner plates. James didn't miss a beat. She's your best friend, Jennifer, of course. I'm glad you have someone like her. He was stonewalling me, making me feel like the crazy one, the classic gaslighting maneuver. But I knew what I saw, I knew what I felt. Jealousy is a hot, blinding emotion. This was different. This was cold dread. I started digging. It felt dirty, a violation of the trust I thought we had, but his secrecy had already violated it first. I wasn't looking for love letters or steamy texts. I was looking for a crack in the story. I started with his past, the neat, tidy narrative he'd given me. He was from a small town, an only child, worked in logistics, a simple and unremarkable history that I'd found comforting. Late one night, fueled by coffee and a growing sense of panic, I was deep in an internet rabbit hole, searching his name, his university, anything. Nothing. It was almost too clean. On a whim, I searched Jessica Thomas's name alongside Chicago, the city they'd spoken of with such odd familiarity. And then I found it, an old article from a business journal dated 8 years ago. The headline read, "Pinnacle Strategics Power Duo Implodes." The article detailed the ruthless, cutthroat world of corporate raiding. It described a brilliant, unstoppable two-person team known for their scorched-earth tactics. They were feared. They were notorious. The article named the partners: a fiery, ambitious strategist named Jessica Thomas, and her enigmatic, aggressive partner, a man known in those circles only as J.A. Stone. Below the headline was a grainy, black-and-white photograph. There she was, Jessica, younger, sharper, with an unmistakable hunger in her eyes. And standing next to her, with the same cold, calculating stare I'd seen for a split second in my own living room, was my husband, James Anderson, or as he was known then, J.A. Stone. The story wasn't about a rekindled flame. It was about a fire that had burned down an empire. And Jessica hadn't come to my home for a friendly dinner. She'd come to collect on a debt. The question was, what was it? And what did it mean for me? I printed the article. My hands shook as I laid it on the kitchen island the next morning. I didn't say a word. I just waited for him to come downstairs for his coffee. The moment he saw the paper, the color drained from his face. The man I knew, the calm, gentle James, vanished. In his place stood the man from the photograph, J.A. Stone, cold, appraising, cornered. "Jennifer," he started, his voice low. "Don't," I cut him off, my voice trembling with a rage I didn't know I possessed. "Don't you dare lie to me again. Who are you?" The truth came out in a torrent. They had been partners, the best in the business. They took no prisoners, made millions dismantling companies. But the final deal, a massive, hostile takeover, had gone wrong, terribly wrong. It had crossed a line even for him. People were ruined, lives destroyed. He walked away from it all, from the money, the life, and from her. He'd changed his name, moved across the country, and reinvented himself as James Anderson, a simple man in logistics. He had buried J.A. Stone and sworn never to look back. "So she's here for revenge?" I asked, my mind racing. He laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "No, it's so much worse than that. She's not here for the past. She's here for the future." He explained that Jessica was launching a new firm, even more aggressive than the last. But she needed capital, and more importantly, she needed a ghost partner, someone whose name couldn't be traced but whose brutal strategies could guarantee success. She needed J.A. Stone. She wasn't trying to steal my husband. She was trying to resurrect her monster. The flirtatious looks, the secret texts, it was all a strategy. A way to isolate him, to remind him of the power they had together, to drive a wedge between us and pull him back into her world. She was leveraging his new life, his love for me, as blackmail. "She gave me an ultimatum," James confessed, his eyes filled with a despair I'd never seen. "Join her, or she exposes everything. My real name, the deals, the lives we ruined. Everything I've built with you gone." Suddenly, the front door opened. It was Jessica. She let herself in as if she owned the place, a triumphant smirk on her face. "Well," she said, her eyes glittering with cold fire as she looked from the article to our shattered faces. "Looks like we can skip the pleasantries. So, J.A., have you told your lovely wife whether you'll be joining the board?" This was it. The moment my life went from perfect to wrecked. I could see the path laid out before me, a devastating choice for James, a future built on fear or destruction. Jessica had him trapped. She thought she had won. She had underestimated one thing, me. For a decade, she had been my best friend. I knew her secrets. I knew her vanities. I knew her weaknesses. And while James saw the corporate predator, I saw the insecure girl who was always terrified of being second best. "He's not going with you," I said, my voice quiet but steady. Jessica laughed. "Oh, sweetheart, this is business. It's not your concern." "It became my concern when you walked into my house and tried to burn my life down," I shot back. "You think you're the only one who does their research." I walked over to my laptop and turned the screen toward her. Displayed was not a business article, but a series of emails I had found forwarded to an old account of mine from years ago, an account Jessica thought was defunct. They were from her, venting to me about a prestigious fellowship she had applied for right after her partnership with J.A. Stone had dissolved. She had been rejected, but the emails weren't just about her disappointment. They were full of fabricated credentials, falsified letters of recommendation, and outright lies about her experience. Lies she had used to build the foundation of her entire subsequent career. It was fraud, plain and simple. "You want to talk about destroying lives, Jessica?" I asked, my voice dropping. "You expose him, and I send these to every investor on your new firm's list. You think they'll trust their money with a fraud? Your comeback will be over before it begins. You will have nothing." The smirk on her face dissolved. The cutthroat competitor was gone, replaced by a panicked look of pure fury. We stared at each other across the kitchen island, two women locked in a battle for their futures. The air didn't just crack, it ignited. James looked between us, stunned. He had tried to protect me from his past, but in the end, I was the only one who could save his future. Jessica stared at me, her jaw tight. Without a word, she turned and walked out of our lives forever. The door clicked shut, leaving a silence that was heavier than any before it. My marriage wasn't saved. It was transformed. The perfect life was gone, replaced by a complicated, messy, and honest truth. The man I loved had a past I never knew, a darkness he had tried to escape. I didn't know if we could survive it, but as I looked at James, not the logistics manager but the survivor who stood before me, I knew one thing for sure. I hadn't just lit a fuse that day. I had been the one to finally put it out, and the future, whatever it held, would be on our terms.